Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm going to show you how to make these roses. Look at those, aren't they beautiful? And I'm using the Classic Rose die stamp set and the 3D shaping mold from Heartfelt Creations. I'm working on a little bit different camera setup today, so I have to get used to it, and I'll try not to bump the camera, but if I do, then please just bear with me. And what we're going to need in the inks, we'll need Saffron, Wild Wasabi, Daffodil Delight, Old Olive, and Melon Mambo. We'll also be using the Nuvo embellishment mousse, and this is lemon sorbet. We'll need some sponge daubers, some glue. I'm using the Scotch quick dry tacky glue. We need a Stampin Spritzer. We need a Big Shot or some other die cutting machine. I've got that off to the side. And when I made my flowers, I used these ball stylus tools to poke them in the center, but if you don't have those, just get yourself a skewer and round the tip off a bit. And I'm going to use this today because this is something that anybody could have and use, and it doesn't cost much of anything to do. And then I also use the sponge mat from my my die brush. Yeah, that's what it's called, a die brush. So I'm using the sponge mat from my die brush. If you don't have that, then stack up some craft foam and use that. Something soft and squishy. It's what you're going to want to use. So let me show you how I did this. Oh, I bumped the camera already. The flowers I stamped in Saffron. I'm just going to do the big flower, and just to show you how I colored them and how to put them through your die or your mold. And the leaves I stamped in Wild Wasabi. So let me get that, and I'll ink that up. Alright, that looks fine. There we go. Stamp that. And I like to do at least some of my coloring and shading before I cut them out. On the leaves, I'm going to use the Old Olive for the shading. And let me get my sponge dauber. And you'll notice that when I daub with my sponge, I use a corner of my ink pad. There is a reason for that. And my thinking is that when I stamp, I always use the center part. So those corners get very little use. Oh, I'm just coloring this in, sponging that in. And as you see, I kept the darker color towards the base and the center of the leaves, and then just random on the little tendrils. Okay, so let's go on to the flower. And I'm going to use Daffodil Delight for that. Let me get my Daffodil Delight in here. And we want it very yellow in the center. And then we'll sponge out the color from that towards the tips of the petals. just like this. You don't have to get too crazy with how good your sponging is, because we are going to wet them when we put them in the mold, and that does move your color around a little bit. And then for a little shimmer on my petals, I'm going to use the Nuvo embellishment mousse. So just with my finger, I'm just going to swipe some on. Like so. And that looks like it's covered pretty good. Here, I'll show you. You see, it's got a nice little shimmer on those petals now. Alright, and now we're ready to run it through the die cutting machine. I'm going to add the pink to the flowers afterwards. So let me get my sandwich out here. I'm using my magnetic plate. Let me put that on here. I'll line up my flowers. Let's see. That goes like this on here, and then my leaves. Normally I'd put a bit of tape on here, but I'm just going to run it through and hope for the best. The magnetic plate should hold it in place, but my plates are pretty warped, so let's see how that comes out. So I'm not actually using these pieces. I already have pieces all cut out and ready to go. I'm just doing these to show you how I did it. Okay, so there's our nice little leaf cut out, and our flower. Flower did go a little off, you see. But like I said, I'm not actually using these. So that's okay. I'm going to get rid of the base plate. We won't be using that again. Put that aside. And we'll get our Melon Mambo, and we're going to sponge the edges of all these petals. Now, on what you're going to, the number of these that you're going to need, let me get my little piece of paper here. I have it written down. We need 2 of these large leaves. There are 5 different sizes of these petal clusters, I guess you'd call them. But you need 2 of these large ones. You'll need 3 of each of the other sizes. Okay, and then 2 of these leaf things. On the smallest of these, you're going to want to add at least your yellow to the back side of them, because those are going to be your flower centers, and you'll be able to see both sides of those. Okay, so now I'm ready to put these through my flower shaping mold. And take the top off, and it's got 3 little legs here, and they just fit in these little notches. There's 3 notches. So you could literally do this part with your eyes closed. You can just feel those little notches. So we place our flower in here, and there is a way that they go in. You see here, I've got these 2 wonky little leaves here, and that's what I use to line these up. And then on the other ones, there's different, just the one or 2 little odd looking petals, and you use those to line it up. And I'll put the leaf in also. I'll put that right there. And if you want to, you can press them in the mold a little bit like this. That just helps to keep them in place when you put your lid on. But it's totally unnecessary. Then I'm going to take my spritzer and just give them a light spritzing. We don't need them sopping wet. We just want them just lightly misted. We'll put the top on. This is like a super thick embossing folder. Okay, and this will take the place of the platform in whatever embossing machine you're using. And I'm just using my 2 plates like this. One on the top, one on the bottom, and I'll run that through. I found on the Cuttlebug you can do it the same way. You use your 2 B plates and the mold. Okay, so now we've got our pieces. And let's see if I can just shake them out. Nope. Okay, I'll pick it out. I'll pick it out with my finger very carefully so I don't mess up all. And you see that nice shaping? Look at the edges. Look at that. Isn't that nice? And with so little effort. Okay, so now we're ready. We do have to do a little bit of shaping on these. The leaves are fine. They're good to go. But the flowers, I'm going to use my skewer. And on the big one, I'm going to use just the end of it. I'm just going to poke that down a couple times. And I try to over cup it because I can always push it back out easily. And now this piece will get put aside to dry. On the little tiny flowers, the little tiny ones, you'll want to put your stamp side down. You'll use, on the smaller ones, you'll use the pointy end. And you'll poke that around like so, because on your little tiny ones, what we're going to do, we're going to bring these all up here and kind of like this. See how that makes kind of a little bud? And we're going to just squish that like this. And we'll make a little bud in the center. So you see on this, it would have, the white would show if I didn't color it in. So you'll want to color in on your little ones. Alright, so now we're ready. We'll pretend that my flowers have all dried, which they have, and I have a bunch of them here. And this is how we're going to make our 3 flowers. For the big one, we need 2 big ones. One of the next size down. Then the next size down. And one little bitty one that I've already squished. Well, this one's not a good one. That one's got, I didn't do the inside. And one that we've already squished. So we've got that one ready to go. Then for the medium size, okay, so that's the large one. That's this one here. For the medium size one, we need 2 of the second to the largest. And then 1 next size down. And 1 next size down. And 1 little squished flower bud for the center. And then for the tiniest one, we need, let's see, we need the the third from the smallest, the next size down from that, and one of our little squished centers. Okay, so you can see how this is going to go together. Alright, so let's start with the big one. Take all my parts apart here. I'm going to glue I'm going to glue my two biggest ones together first. And I'll offset the petals. I'm going to give that a little poke to hold that in place. And then we'll do the next one. And I see I'm running out of time here. I've only got like 9 minutes left on my filming. Give that a poke. And then the next one. You see where this is going. And every time you want to offset those petals as you add them. And then we'll have our last piece, our little flower center. And just pop that in the center. And there's our rose, our big rose. Here's our medium one. So we've got all of our little pieces sorted out here. And it's just the same thing. We just put them together, offset the petals. They do want to kind of cup together, so I like a glue that dries pretty fast. Sometimes I'll even use a glue gun if I'm feeling particularly adventurous that day. So I tend to burn myself with the glue gun. So there are just some days I feel more confident that that I can work with hot objects like that. Okay, so get in there, little flower center. And there's our medium one, and we'll do our little one, which is just these 3 pieces. And those are our flowers. They're all ready to go on our card. The glitter I did at the very end, so we're not glittering just yet. Okay, so there we go. There's our flowers. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button down below. If you'd like to order any of the Stampin' Up! Products that I used today, then you can do that either through my Facebook page or my website. And as always, I'll put a list of the tools and materials I used down below. So y'all, and be sure to watch the video to make the card. So I'll be doing that next. So we'll have our flowers all ready to pop right on there. So y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stamping.